Welcome, Chris Plourde, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So, in your own words, can you please tell the people what you do? I already gave an intro in the beginning of the podcast, but if you can just tell the people what you do, what you specialize in, what makes you tick.
Yeah, no problem. I'm a performance coach, and what I mean by that is I really look at the whole aspect of everybody's life. If we can look at the fitness realm, the health and wellness, how their relationship with money, how their professional life is, how their personal life, and their spiritual life. We take all the five of those aspects and we try to keep them as balanced as possible in order to move them in the direction that they should be going into. A lot of people make decisions based on what they don't want in life. And when we can shift perspective and get people to run towards what they want, then their life starts to take on meaning, takes on purpose. And when that happens, there's a greater spark, a better vision, a tendency to have a more desire and hunger for life. Not only success are we running towards, but we also want fulfillment and happiness. And so whatever the client is looking for, we have hundreds of different tools we could use in order to get them to readjust their way of doing things, to get them on that trajectory and that path of where they want to go.
And you spoke about balance, right? Creating the balance in the 5 areas that you were speaking of. What happens when we don't have balance in a certain area? So, for example, let's say our religious or spiritual is going to be higher than our personal. And so we don't have balance there. Do you find it causes some type of discrepancy in life, or some balance is good, some balance is bad?
Well, I think it's not always about being in balance. It's just recognizing what is that too much and not enough. Sometimes we need to get out of balance in order to see what that is, having too much in our lives, right? So I'll give an example. Suppose you wanted to write a book and there was a deadline for that book, but you have a family at home, you have other ways of making money, but you're really focused on the next 3 weeks working on a book. Right. So you tell your wife or kids or family or whatever, I'm finishing this book in 3 weeks. It's going to take this much. I'm going to be working late until night. But it's recognizing, it's communicating that, yes, I'm going to be out of balance for this period of time. But however, when I'm done, we're going to take a 2-week vacation to Hawaii or whatever to celebrate this. And so that we can find that synergy back in and put that synergy back into our lives. So I look at those, and are we communicating with ourselves, with our loved ones, with our coworkers, with everyone in our lives in order to kind of create that space that is going to allow us to kind of find the scales so that they can come back in alignment. So it's not about every day is balanced and perfect. No, it's recognizing when you need to put the energy into certain parts of your life, and how do we do that effectively and efficiently.
And that leads us to our discipline, right? Because if we're not disciplined, we're not going to have any type of balance. Because if we're so focused on writing this book per se, or we're so focused on getting this assignment done or presentation complete, we're going to be entrenched in that, where now we're just stressed out. We are maybe not the friendliest person, to our spouse, to our kids, and we're not open to living in the moment because we're just so focused on what our goal is, right? Our goal is to write this book, to get this presentation done, whatever the assignment is. But we miss out on the moments, though, sometimes when we're so entrenched in what we do, when we are dedicated to doing only one thing. Because what happens if your kid comes running in the door and you're writing your book? Do you yell and you berate them saying, I thought I told you that I'm writing my book for 3 weeks and we're not going to be able to have these conversations. You can't be coming into the office anymore. So you're doing this to them. But that has a negative impact on them because now they're going to say, well, dad is too busy for me. Right. So in our eyes as adults, we know we're trying to accomplish something for our family, but those around us, maybe they're younger and they don't understand that. They can't perceive that dad's working, he's trying to provide for us. How do we create a balance when we have those type of distractions, when we are trying to stay focused on one task and we have an imbalance for a short period of time?
Right. There's a couple different ways. First of all, you mentioned discipline, right? Discipline to me used to, growing up where I grew up out east, and having this very regimented way of doing things and focused on sports and schools and, becoming a man's man, so to speak, and going to college. And, it was a very kind of discipline was this almost suffering type of thing for me. It's like you had to go through it and you had to suffer through it in order to make it worth it. Right. What I realized was that was a very victim way of being. That wasn't necessarily the right way of being. And when I realized that discipline isn't necessarily that, discipline is about leading to your freedom within yourself, right? It's allowing yourself to feel free. So you do these things, you do the work, you commit to the work in order to better yourself, vibrating on a higher level, doing whatever, however you want to say it, however it wants to be, so that you can be happier, more fulfilled, like I mentioned earlier. When you talk about the kids and reaction to how they might, perceive what you're doing and talking to them, first of all, I think it's about us working on our emotional intelligence and understanding what emotions come through us first and foremost in order to process whatever might be going on, right? Because if we're not doing the work on ourselves, how do we expect everyone that we love to be doing the work on themselves? So when I, interact with my kids, it is about communicating properly. It's about communicating my emotions. It's not about being perfect. Of course, I'm going to, get angry or have a reaction. I mean, it's, to maintain this Zen Buddhist state all the time. Yeah, that's great, but is it reality? We live in a life that's full of stresses, full of all these things. So when I do, fall down or react to something that I'm not exactly proud of, there is that opportunity to go back and discuss what has happened, right? Same thing when my kids react to me. It's like, okay, let's let the everything settle in a little bit. And let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about those emotions that came up. Let's discuss why they came up. And then, hey, daddy was pretty stressed. I just want to let you know, I didn't mean to react to you. There's an apology. There's a reason why it happened. And seeing them when they see you make mistakes, but understand and own those mistakes, I think it sets the example and the tone for where they're going to go. It isn't about perfection. I think so many people think it is. It's about, fall down, get a scar, get right back up, own it, and then move forward with that proper lesson that you're going to get from that. So,
and when we have these moments where we have that realization of, okay, we messed up or we were maybe too harsh, we find ourselves, okay, let me reflect what's going on. And there's multiple ways that someone can reflect, right? They can do journaling, they can talk to a coach, therapist, right? There's ways that people can have that conversation or work through that process. I know you do some type of breath work. Does that help with helping you gain that balance back quicker than just waiting for things to go back to normal?
Yeah, it's 100% yes. I started teaching meditation at a studio in Santa Monica, California, where I live. And, I eventually took this breathwork class that was, I got off the floor and I was like, wow, I have to teach this. And the reason from my own experience and what I felt was a deeper connection to myself. I felt lighter, connection to what was around me, stress levels gone down, or hormones, whatever the case may be. I felt free, and the reason I felt so good is because I was able to clear stuck energy that was in my body, right? The breathing and the deep holotropic breath work that we do allows us to get rid of the issues that might be in the tissues, and when we can feel those emotions that might come up through doing this breath work and seeing those things, it's a healing type of modality. Yes, all of that. It's been a huge practice for me, for a lot of my most of my clients do this work. It's just a really powerful exercise that really connects to self. It gets beneath the layers of, all that programming that we've been putting on since a young age. It enables us to take off the masks that we need to put on sometimes to fit into society and really get to the soul of who we are. So yes, 100%. Do it.
Would you say that the breath work is rooted into any type of spirituality base, like, for example, Zen Buddhism, or is it something that's like new to our current generation, our current society? this breath work is just allowing you to be present, to get back to you, to get back to the moment, more so than focusing on Zen Buddhism.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when people think of monks, they think of, oh, I have to sit quietly for 1500 hours and meditate and go,
Mm.
but that's
Yeah.
not the case when it comes to meditation. There's so many
Mhm.
other types of meditation, and breath work is just one of them. Or is it going to be a different
Yeah.
term for that type of breathing
Hmm.
techniques, or is it or is something that's new and
Yeah.
avant-garde?
I was just having a conversation with a good friend of mine just a little while ago, a couple hours ago, and she actually was a monk for
Mhm,
4 years, but now she's the lead on Broadway, right? So
mhm,
she went through that whole transition, and the conversation we had was about living life in today's society, right? So this practice is different for everybody, right? We live in a world that most of us have to work. We have to make money. A lot of us have kids or have kids on the way, like yourself. There's certain stressors and certain activities that we go through, right? What is spirituality? That depends on the person, right?
mhm,
Sometimes that's religion for some people. Sometimes that's a connection, right? I can't define what spirituality is for any of my clients. I can only define what it is for me. So when I take, say, a group through a breathwork class, and then we have the time to integrate what they got at the end, everyone has a different experience. You
mhm,
never have the exact same experience twice, even if you're doing it 5 days a week. So for some, it can be a very physical experience. So your body might light up. It can get very uncomfortable. It can get very buzzy, and a lot of energy moves around. Sometimes you have emotional outbursts. You cry, you laugh, you yell, things happen that you're not even kind of aware of. And when that happens, it can be a beautiful, beautiful release. Sometimes people go into the other realms, so to speak, where they have the foot on the other side, and they have these mystical experiences. Again, everyone's different. I can't dictate what it's going to be for you. It just really depends. So some people leave there going, I don't know what just came out of me, but I feel 1,000 times lighter,
mhm,
right? I don't feel as stressed anymore. I feel much more balanced. Or, oh my God, I had this creative idea for this new business or this problem I've been working on. Or I realized that, I've been grieving my father, in his sickness or his loss or whatever. And they were able to process that through it. So
mhm,
again, I can go on and on and on and on. But the fact of the matter is, this practice is kind of an accelerator to get you in touch with yourself and your soul.
mhm.
And it allows you to just peel back what we've been covering up for so many years and get to the root of who we are. So,
Mhm. And while you're explaining breath work a little bit more in detail, I started to think
mhm,
about my years of doing Bikram. And Bikram is hot yoga, where you're in a 105-degree room with 40 or 60% humidity. So it's not really comfortable, right? As soon as you go
mhm,
in, you're starting to sweat. You're not even moving, you're just sweating. And
right.
now you have to start moving. And when you start moving, the exercises are not per se strenuous in the sense of I'm running a mile, but it's more challenging to breathe because it's so humid. And you're sometimes doing poses that restrict some of your airflow. But some days when you go into Bikram, you can do all 90 minutes and you feel great after. And some days you will go in there after you have already done it for a year, 2 years. It doesn't really matter on your experience level. You can go into that room and you can just be fatigued after the warm-up postures.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
so it's a battle every single day because the mind or the body might not be in alignment for what it has to take on in that class for that 90 minutes. And it's not so much that we have to be upset with our mind, be
mm,
upset with our body, but we take some time to reflect and say, this is where I am today.
mm,
Because just because we're here today doesn't mean we have to be there tomorrow. And I also found myself doing it, being really good. And some days I was bad. And then I would get angry. That anger would come saying, like, what's wrong with me? Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, did I not eat well? Like, am I stressed out? Like, why can't I do these poses? I did them the day before. Did I not drink enough
mhm,
water? So I start to question myself, what am I doing wrong? And then now that leads to me questioning, am I doing life right? Because if
mhm,
I can't even do this type of meditation, this art form of yoga proficiently on a consistent basis? Am I failing? Am I progressing? Do you find that sometimes when people start doing breath work, that maybe one day they're really powerful and they're doing great work with this breath techniques, and then the next week maybe they're just like not focused and they're just unfocused and they're just unhappy? It's a bunch of negativity going on, and they voice that concern to you?
Yeah, it's a great analogy. I'm also a yoga instructor. I got certified years ago. I've been taking yoga personally for 26 years, and so a lot of that is what you give on the mat and what you do on the mat is what you bring to the outside world. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but it's how you show up on the mat, and the whole point is to be able to hold these poses and accept where you are in that moment and love yourself for where you are in that moment, right? So many of us have these negative below the line emotions and we think there's something wrong, right? And they go, well, there's that shame or guilt that comes up. Shame being there's I'm messed up, guilt being I messed up, right? I did something wrong, like, oh, did I drink enough water? Did I do this? Did I do that? Well, the whole point of life is to have these experiences, is to have these emotions come up, regardless of where you are at, and being able to accept these emotions that come up. Now, you can look at it as like this too will pass, and it does, and then it leads to a better version of yourself. But it's a roller coaster ride. It's like if you're looking at in breath, and I'll get back to breath work in a minute because I know there was a specific question you had about that. But again, it's a microcosm of what your life is in a 45, 50-minute type of class, right? Because it gets so intense so quickly. So when we're working on something in our lives, right, you have an old trigger, an old wound that you might have, right? And you look at that you see it for the first time and you're actually able to feel all those emotions that come around with it, or that person that comes into your life, or that same type of person that comes into your life, that situation that keeps coming into your life that's telling you where you're not free. Well, we look at it and we go, okay, I'm going to experience this. I'm going to have the courage to dive right into the middle of this. And I'm going to fully embrace that this is me. Right. And then eventually it goes away and we get into our happy, higher vibrating self. And then something else happens a week or 2, 3 later, where that same type of emotion comes back and you go, oh, there it is again. I can't believe it's back. I thought I already dealt with it. What's wrong with me? Right? There's nothing wrong with you. The thing about these emotions is that we get to experience them, and then we get to experience them again and again and again. But the beauty is every time you have the courage to look at it, it gets a little bit quieter and quieter and quieter, right? We think it's going to completely go away, but the trick is it doesn't go away. And that's hard for a lot of people to hear. It never goes away, but it gets really soft. So it doesn't start running your life, right? So that's the work, and that's the commitment to being a better version of yourself, is loving yourself, owning yourself, right? With all of those emotions that come up, liking the light ones above the line ones and the shadow ones that surface, and being able to hold those in a container and say, yeah, this is me. This is the experiences I had. These are the life experiences that I went through, these major events that I wouldn't wish upon anybody in my life, but they have made me the man or the woman that I am today. Right? I went through those for a reason, to show me I have these gifts, to show me that I have these lessons, to show me that I have tenacity to get through those hard times in life. And when we can own that and say, yes, this is part of my growth as a human, this is why I'm here. Now we can start to use those to be in service of others. And I think that's the ultimate form, is being able to give to others, is be able to serve others, humanity, this earth. And I think that's where the ultimate form of fulfillment lies, is when we're able to recognize and hold that. So
yeah, definitely. I find that sometimes when people have a hardship, whether it be with a yoga pose, whether it be with personal relationships, work, career, once they have that hardship, it's kind of like they fall down, but they don't want to get back up again. They're afraid to get hurt again.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that feeling, because failure doesn't feel good. Getting hurt doesn't feel good. Having a broken heart, per se, in the sense of what a broken heart is, it doesn't feel good, right? So
No.
many people shy away from it, right? And they don't want to push past that hardship again, right? So they say, you know what? I'm not going to open up my heart again. I'm not going to
Mm,
try this art form again because I did so poorly. So they have all that judgment on themselves, and they're more than likely to give up on doing other things that are similar to it, right?
mm,
So if breathing technique is like yoga, what is going to be like yoga or another breathing technique, right? So they might say,
mhm.
well, I'm not going to go to the gym either because that's going to be a challenge in itself too. And at the gym, I have to learn how to breathe. I have to learn how to pace myself. And that just leads to them living an unhealthy life because they don't have that balance anymore,
Yeah.
because they had that hardship and they said, okay, I'm just going to sacrifice this area and I'm not going to push, right? What do you do when people get stuck in an
Mm,
area where they had a hardship, they had a challenge, they had a trauma, and they say,
mm.
I don't want to go there again?
Right. Well, you brought up a couple of good points. It's resistance, right? When we go to the gym, like you just mentioned, resistance is present. If resistance wasn't there, if resistance wasn't out on your run during the weights, if it wasn't on your yoga mat with gravity, whether not in the pool, on the bike, whatever, you're not going to get fit, physically fit.
Mhm.
You need resistance. It's the exact same thing in life in all those areas I mentioned before, personally, professionally, spiritually, financially, right? It's so important to understand that resistance will always be there. But when we shift our relationship with resistance, how we view it, how we hold it, then things start to get a little lighter for us. We realize, we start to embrace it and go, oh, you're supposed to be here now. You are here so that I can become a stronger version of myself in all my areas of my life. So formulating that relationship with it, right, is vital. And knowing that, a lot of us have gone, we worked out, and what happens the first 3, 4, 5 minutes of a run or whatever the case may be, sometimes it's torturous. But once we start moving and we get that momentum and that energy flowing, then we start to lift up a little bit. We start to get those chemicals that get released. We make a challenge for ourselves. Every time we overcome the smallest of challenges, we get a hit of dopamine that gets released into our bodies. Then eventually we have these endorphins that come out. And then by the end, we've had this huge release and we feel great about ourselves, right? That's an exercise. It's the same thing with when we tackle a project, when we enter a new relationship, whatever the case may be. And when we fall, that's the part of life. We've all heard of the arena speech by Theodore Roosevelt. It's about being in the arena, taking our hits, going through our bumps. It's not about being in the seats, just watching life and everything go by. It's about owning those scars, knowing that failure is a parallel to success.
Mhm.
It's not the exact opposite. If you are not falling, you are not heading towards the success that you were meant to be in.
Mhm.
So instead of going to the grave and trying to be this pristine, perfect version of yourself, let's get a little messy.
Mhm.
Let's live this life and go look back and go, wow, that was an amazing journey I was just on. That was incredible. Am I pristine and perfect? No. But I lived my life and I led with my heart and I did what I needed to do in order to evolve in the way that I should have evolved. So it's perspective shifting is what a big part of the work I do with people are. It's shifting that relationship and getting rid of that old programming that was put into our bodies, our cells, our souls, probably before the time of before we were 20 years old, from the
Mhm.
people we looked up to, from the projections that we got. And now it's understanding that and reprogramming and
Mhm.
burning those new neural pathways in our brains so that we can finally connect to why we were here, to our purpose, to our version of who we are.
Mhm. And that's like
Hmm.
mental fortitude. When we have that adversity, we have to rise. And a little
Uh-huh.
bit about me, I'm a former teacher. I taught music, special ed. And when I was doing my student teaching with my cooperating teacher, I was in an elementary level and I was doing music. And it was, going okay, but it wasn't great, right? I was able to have
Mm,
good classroom management, but the music skills weren't there for me, right? I had to be able
mm,
to relay the information to the class 100% efficiently, right? It was like you have to make it so they're going to learn the right thing and not so much the wrong thing. So it was a gap for me I had to learn. And I remember I had my first review at the elementary level. And so the teacher had came in, and this is a class I've never worked with before because she was dropping the ball on the
Mm-hmm.
presentations or coming in for the observations. And so I had to do it with a class I never worked with before. They never met me before in their life. So now it's like, okay, well, who's this guy? And so I'm having to teach a class I never saw before, but I had to do it, right? And you should be able to do it if you're a good and effective teacher. Well, I'm just student teacher at that point. So
Mm.
I am going to do the best I can. We get through the class, but it wasn't good, right? She said, like, this is not good. Like, if we don't fix this, you're not going to be able to pass. And my cooperating teacher, he was like, you can do this. I know you can. We just have to get to work, right? So I left that day defeated. And I
Mm.
was just like, what do I do? I'm like home and I'm like depressed, basically. It's like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And it's running through my head, what do I do? And I just started working, right? I just started,
Mm-hmm.
getting the music, figuring out, the lesson plans. What are my strengths and utilizing those? And then from that point, I started to grow.
Mm.
And the next time we have the observation, long story short, she says, I can't believe it's the same guy.
Mm.
Where after the class I had to walk the kids down the hall, and it was just her and my cooperating teacher. And she told him, like, I can't believe how much he improved. And then he told me that later of the
Yeah.
conversation they had while I was gone. But I could have stopped. I could have said, all right, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I failed. I'm not good. I'm not going to pass. And I should just give up while I'm ahead. I don't want to get hurt
Mm-hmm.
anymore, right? I don't want to feel this emotion, this negative emotion. But the path that's clear is not the path you should be on. You should have
Right.
some type of adversity, some type of challenge, some type of obstacle that you have to overcome, because when you do that, you become stronger. So that mental
Yes.
fortitude that we have when we have a challenge or trauma can lead us to substantial change in our life. And what I like to have clients do is come to me before they have a trauma, before they have a hardship. But many people wait until something's wrong in their life and they say, I need this fixed, right? We are not going to do maintenance on our car when the car is in the graveyard. We want to go get the oil changes. We want to make sure that the brakes are checked, the tires are rotated. We're doing
Mm-hmm.
that regular maintenance. Many people don't realize that they have regular maintenance too,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be their thoughts, feelings, or how they act on a given day. They don't take that daily maintenance, or they don't take time to realize this is what I need in order to be at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Mm-hmm.
find people have troubles with when they're trying to be their fullest self? Do you find
Yeah.
that they're having hardships with their careers, relationships, personal identity? Society is so negative nowadays, where if you turn on the news or if you pick up your smartphone, you're going to get a dose of negativity.
Right.
And that causes a lot of people to say, you know what? What's the point?
Mm. Well, it's yes, yes, and yes. All of what you said. People are going through that. They're not essentially taking care of themselves, right? I literally just had a breathwork class online a little while ago, and the girl messaged me. She goes, I am so much better now, and I realized that the what I was missing was the self-care,
Mm,
right? And that self-care is so vital. Most people are really good at taking care of others, right? We're really good at showing up and being a great team player. We're really good at taking care of our spouse or our kids or our parents or loved ones. When someone calls us up, we're like, yeah, we're there for you. But when you really ask the question of, on a scale of 1 to 10, how fulfilled are you? Like, really? Even if you have like millions of dollars in the bank, which a lot of my clients do, but I want to know, what is your level of fulfillment in life? And when they can get real with that, right? And not, oh, I'm going to justify it by how much this house I own or cars I drive or whatever. No, I want to know how fulfilled on all those aspects you are. And when we can truly dive into that and say, okay, well, what's it going to take to get you to that 10 on the scale of 1 to 10 from that 4 or 5? Because if you're only operating at a 4 or 5 on a regular basis, you're not able to be the best version of yourself, right? So we do those things that allow us to take care of themselves. So what's your morning routine, right? Are you seeing a coach, a therapist to really focus in on you? I know you're able to do that for others, but what about yourself? Are you participating not only in an exercise routine of some sort? What about a spiritual routine, which could be breath work, meditation? Are you writing in the morning, right? Are you taking walks and brisk things to reset yourself on a regular basis, right? When you getting a massage or body work or energy work, whatever, right? It's different for everybody. I'm not dictating what one's better than the other. It's what calls to you and your spirit, right? But when people neglect themselves, right, to take care of everybody else, it's like the oxygen mask on first. If you're not filling yourself up, you're gonna perish. Something's gonna show up in your life that's gonna be like, no, this isn't right. Whether it's an injury, a mental burnout, a sickness, disease, something is gonna show you that there is a dis-ease within yourself. There's something that's not eased. And it's part of what I love to do is call that out on people and say, okay, what are we going to do to take care of you so that you are the greatest, best, most amazing, most loving version of yourself, right? And that is self-love, right? And that's so hard. You know, like you can love your kids and you're about to have this, right, with your new one, and you're going to see a whole new version of love that you never felt before. But my version of that is, can you now give that love back to yourself when you look in the mirror? And when the answer is yes, you know you're doing the work. So,
right. Yeah. And when I was a teacher, I would go in every single day to school and I gave 100%. It was only one day I didn't give 100%. I wasn't feeling good that day. And it was on a Tuesday, I remember, because Tuesdays were my roughest day. I just had back-to-back classes of heavy hitters, and heavy hitters are the students who are just high energy. And if you're not on top of it, they will run the class. So the first class comes in. It was a pretty docile class, I thought. It's a kindergarten class. And they were having their way with me, basically. They were not listening. They were running around, doing all the wrong things, but dangerous, basically. So I was like, all right, I can't not give 100% because I was trying to squeeze through the day, give maybe 40, 50%. And it wasn't working. And I noticed that first thing in the morning, my first class, kindergarten, and you would think, these would be the sweetest kids, easiest kids, right? They're just little, you just sing some songs and it's easy peasy, but that wasn't the case. So I realized, okay, before my fourth graders show up, I better change my mindset. I better start to give 100%. And when I started to do that, I was exhausted, but it was still better for me throughout the whole day, because I was able to get through the whole day versus the kids just having a ballpark in the class. And after I went home that day, I just slept. I was just exhausted. That way of thinking of making sure I give 100%, because if I don't give 100%, I'm going to have a rough day. But then at the same time, understanding that I didn't feel 100% too, because it wasn't so much about self-care, because I was taking care of myself. I was doing the right thing. I think it was just something I ate the day before, and it's just, I just wasn't there. And I didn't get upset though. I didn't get upset at myself saying, why am I in this situation? I should be healthy. I go to the gym. I eat my vegetables, take my multivitamin. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. But self-care is going to be that fine line of your stress and your burnout. Many people apply self-care, but they don't apply it enough. So self-care for them might be, well, I'm just going to sit down when I get home and I'm going to watch a movie on Netflix, right? And they do that, but it doesn't recharge your batteries as much as if you did something more meaningful like breath work, journaling, reading a book. That's going to fill up your tank, your battery, more so than just watching a movie that you probably watched already, or a series that you watched already. Yes, it's easy, right? Because the brain likes easy, but it's not fulfilling. So many people misunderstand self-care. They think self-care is just doing what I like, but it should be doing what you need in order to be at 100%, right? How can we recharge every single day How can we be our better self tomorrow? Like when you go to the gym, you're tearing your muscle fibers, but your body knows, okay, this guy's crazy. He's tearing his muscle fibers. I have to make sure that I repair these muscle fibers and that they're stronger than before, because now you can lift more. Now you're stronger, essentially. So our mind is the same thing. When we have a hardship, when we have a tough day, if we do the self-care and we address our mind, it makes us stronger in the sense of now we can handle more stress. Now we can handle more resistance of that negativity, because the world is going to be negative every single day. And our outlook on that is going to be our perception of the world and of ourselves. And many people are focused to that negative, right? They would watch a drama TV series before they watch a personal development video, motivational podcast. They like that drama. That mind loves that drama. It lives on it. How can people start to shy away from the negativities of the world and start to say, I would like to be more mindful. I would like to be more positive. What are some things that, or some conversations that they should have with themselves to start that journey?
Well, I think it's one thing to, state the words, but it's another thing to really feel them, right? When you say, I want to be more mindful, I want to be more connected, I want to be more purpose driven, great. I believe you. But are you stating that? Is that something that you really are willing to do at this moment? As a coach, I've worked with people from all walks of life, and some people have the idea that they're ready, but they're not actually ready, right? They might say, yeah, but in order to really get to that next, out of that space you're in, out of that life that you no longer choose or want to be in, it's going to take some work. Changing your life is not easy, but it is worth it, right? It is worth it. So it's first of all, accepting where you are first and foremost. First of all, okay, this is the environment I'm in. This is the job I have. This is the relationships I'm in. These are the people I have in my life. Okay, I'm going to accept all of this for what it is. I'm going to step on the scale. I'm going to look around me and say, yes, okay, this is it. Now, if I want to change it, what do I need to do in order to shift that? So maybe there's boundaries we need to put up first of all, right? Now, boundaries aren't necessarily this dreaded, hateful, get away from me, you can't come near me anymore. Boundaries are put up, and that's an act of self-love, right? Boundaries aren't about putting walls up so nobody can get in. Boundaries are about showing people where the door is so that they have the idea of where to walk through, right? And when you are strong enough within yourself to say, hey, I want to talk to you on the phone, but I only have 5 minutes right now. Or you're getting really truthful with yourself and truthful with others to do that, so that when you get off the phone after 45 minutes, that you don't need to talk to this person who's an energy sucker, that you're able to say, no more, right? Or you're in this job that's just taking your soul away. I've done that with many different companies. It just wasn't my cup of tea. They were great companies, but it wasn't the job I needed to be in for that time in my life. And a boundary would be, okay, I'm going to move back and I'm going to become a coach, right? And this is the direction to serve people, to help people. So the boundary was being able to shift out of one thing and into the other, right? Limiting my phone calls. Boundaries are essential. They are not about negative pushing away. They're about being the best version of you so that you keep your goals and dreams that you have aligned for you in life. It's about moving forward. And again, identifying what is on that mountain for you and going, I'm going to ascend this next mountain. I see what's on top there. And I'm going to start walking up, and I'm going to get into action, which is the next step, right? What is your action steps you want to take in order to get to that mountain? And by the way, you don't have to see the exact route that you're ascending, right? That's going to unfold itself. Nobody has ever created a business, had a relationship, had a specific thing that they have done, a goal that they have set and said, this is the step I'm going to take, and this is the next step I'm going to take, and this is the next step I'm going to take. It doesn't work. Life doesn't work like that. Life reveals the path that is designed just for you, and it's trusting that you might not know it, but in time, you're going to reach the top if you just keep up. You keep moving forward. You stay in action. that path will reveal itself for you.
Mhm.
So it's having the faith and knowing that sometimes it's not about in 1 year I will be here, right? Maybe it's about in 2 years I'll be here, but I'm going to enjoy this journey of life, right? Not just about reaching the goals, but I'm going to slow down, look around, surround myself with some amazing people so that we can all rise together.
Mhm.
So
Love what you said about just understanding that we won't see the finish line sometimes, but we are going to have that journey to that finish line. And what's around the corner might be uncertain, but just because it's uncertain doesn't mean that we're not able to handle it, right? Some people are so
right.
worried about if they're going to be able to handle a certain situation that comes their way. My cooperating teacher, he had a saying, be ready for bear, right? So it's no matter what happens, if a grizzly bear is coming at you, charging at you, you're ready for him, right? And this is going to be the mentally type of aspect. Like, be mentally ready for any type of hardship. And of course, sometimes things can get heavy. And I always encourage people to seek out a coach, a mentor, a guide, someone who can help you along the way. Because yes, they went on their journey, they reached a mountain peak per se. It might not be your mountain peak, but they do have some experience where they can help and guide you and steer you in the right direction so you're not making mistakes, that you're not having setbacks that are going to be detrimental to your success, your immediate success. Because people can be successful, but we just have to put the time aspect. How long is that going to take? Right?
Right.
Because we can do something at a very slow pace and we could be successful, or we can say, all right, this is the goal and this is the timeline we're going to do it in.
Right.
Sometimes people say, well, I feel comfortable going to next year, right? So, for example, we are in April right now, going to be going into May. Well, let's say someone wants to get into shape. They might say, well, I'm going to wait until New Year's resolutions. So they wait. So that's that contingency. I'm going to wait. Or when is January 1st, 2023, then I'm going to do this, right? So they give themselves a goal and it's so far off where they don't necessarily have to worry about it. It's somewhere in their mind, their subconscious mind, that, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to be proactive right now. So having someone that can push you, a coach, a mentor, a guide, those people are going to be important in your life because they're going to say, hey, I understand why you're taking a break, but let me explain to you what happens when you take a break. And let me explain what's going to happen when we don't, right? Because we can show them both sides, right? Would you rather be in a better place sooner or would you rather wait, right? And it kind of goes back to sometimes people say they want things, but they don't really want them. But if we can put it in a way where we're saying, hey, doesn't this sound amazing? Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Well, these are the steps. Let's go together, right? I'm on your side. I'm your team member, right? I'm sitting on your side of the table. I'm not on the opposite side. I'm right with you every step of the way. And that's powerful for people to understand. I encourage people, whether it's me, whether it's yourself, seek a coach, seek someone that's going to help you get to the next level sooner than later. And so I wanted to get some final words from you. And then, of course, please share where people can find you.
Yeah, no problem. No, I love what you just said. It is, we're not meant to do this alone. We're meant to walk our own path, write our own books, our own chapters in life, but we're here to support each other. And there's no better feeling than being able to see someone make these incredible improvements on themselves. And when you can reach out and ask for help, that's a courageous thing. Because we don't, I was brought up not, you don't want to look bad. You don't want to show anybody that you're weak or vulnerable or any of that. No, those are emotions. Those are things that actually will help you propel to that next level. So asking for help, reaching out, saying, what is this for me? I know when I first hired a coach, I was in a really dark despair place in my life. And I trusted. I didn't have the money to hire a coach, but I found it. And it ended up doubling and tripling over the next 3 or 4 months because I looked for help outside. I got that accountability. I got that thing within myself that said, okay, I don't know what I don't know, but show me the way. Ask me the questions, hold me accountable. And that 2 or 3, that energy combined just brought things into a beautiful, beautiful space. So yeah, so like you said, my website's chrisplourde.com. You can also take a free breathwork class off of that if you like. Just a quick little download, and it'll be sent to you. And then Instagram would be the next best way at Coach Chris Plourde.
All right. Perfect. Everyone, if you're looking for breath work, looking for a coach, mentor, guide, Chris Plouarde's going to be your guy. Again, thank you so much for spending your time with me, Chris. And of course, in the future, if you need anything, you know where to find me.
All right. Thanks for having me on. Great to talk to you.
Cheers.